Hey, Dad. Tell me about when you first started working at Munchies.
I started there in January of '87. I was a freshman at ASU, and I didn't have a job my first semester, but my second semester I did. That was my first job up here in college. Basically, how I got the job is that the owner's parents knew my aunt, Etta Mae Horton, and she told me just go in there and tell them who I was and who sent me in there, and that's what I did. And he hired me on the spot, and I went to work the next week, put me on the schedule.
Gosh, now I don't know what to say. Okay, this is a lot more awkward than I thought it was gonna be. When did Mom start working there?
Uh, Terry started working in, I believe it was March or April. It was later in the spring, around spring. Uh, she started working there. So we only worked together about a month or so, or maybe 6 weeks that semester. Because after the semester ended, I went back home and worked on a farm. Um, so I knew who she was, but then when I come back in the fall and picked up where I left off, working there, and uh, but she worked there, started there about 2 months after I did.
So that's how y'all met?
Yep, that's how we met. Worked together. And she hated working with me because I wouldn't talk.
That's funny.
We were a lot of times at night we were really slow, and I would sit with my old Sony Walkman, if you remember the Walkman days, and listening to my music on a little tape player on my Walkman, because we didn't have iPods and whatnot back then.
So when did what was like your first date? When did you guys start dating?
It wouldn't have been until probably about January or February of '88. We went, quote, on a double date to the movies with Michael and uh, Nancy Loggins and Michael. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, they both worked at Munchy's too by that time, and they knew Terry from the BSU, which was the Baptist Student Union. They hung out at school, because at this time Terry would have been a freshman in college. And we went to movies a time or two and something like that with them. And then I guess our first official date by ourselves was actually a Valentine's banquet that her church did at a place downtown, a little restaurant downtown.
Was it really awkward?
Nah, and I don't like being around lots of people, so not necessarily just being with her, because by this time had done work together for about 8 months, and we just kind of hit it off after that, and hung out a lot. And I go out to her parents' house because she was living at home, and her dad had the funny handlebar mustache.
So how long had you worked there by the time you guys had me?
Well, originally started in January '87. Took the summer of '87 off, come back in the fall, and worked through the school year. And then in the summer '88, I went back home, worked on the farm again, and come back in '88. Worked there the fall of '88, fall semester, but that's when Terry had her wreck, and I quite literally failed every class but my art class.
You were in an
That's
art class?
Well, it was like visual art.
Oh, like fine. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
one of the fine art
Art
requirement.
appreciation.
Yeah, you had to have. And then, so I failed every class, so I was on academic suspension, which it's easy to get back in after your first suspension. All you got to do is request it, and they'll give it to you. But I took all of '89 off from school and worked, stayed with mom and dad, and worked on the farm, and come back to school in '89. And from '89 till I left there in 2007, I was there continually. Um, so I worked there continually for almost 17 years before you were born.
No.
No,
You're
7
bad at
years.
math.
7 years before you were born. Sorry. But
7
technically
years.
9 years I was there, except for 2 summers off in a year.
Donna said something about they put a sign up when I was born.
Yes, on the little marquee sign that was out by the road, there was a congratulations, Vic and Terry, Samantha, Jane, Holt, and how much you weighed.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You're never supposed to ask a woman's weight.
Well, when you're too young to know, it doesn't really matter.
So,
But-
how old was I when I started going with you on like Friday nights?
You were about 12 or 13 or so when you started.
No.
Yeah.
I was younger than that.
I
It was
don't know.
before John was born.
Was it? Yeah, I guess it was, wasn't it? Maybe about 10 or 11
Because
then.
I was 11 when John was born.
Yeah. So I guess about 10. I guess about 10 when you started. And you could ring up orders better than half the people working there.
Well, I did that whenever I actually worked there too. So, Mom still worked there whenever I was little though, right? Because I can remember like sitting in a booth and coloring.
Yeah,
Like
she
it was
would.
my booth.
She would. Sometimes if we got in a bind or were shorthanded, she would work a little bit, but she wouldn't quote necessarily on the schedule all the time. But when you were little, she still could drive, and yes, there were times that she would have to come to work because I'd have people call in sick and couldn't get a hold of anybody, and you would have to sit at a booth and color for 2 hours.
Because I definitely remember that. And cheese sticks.
And cheese sticks.
And cheese sticks. And pickles.
And pickles. All of y'all ate pickles before you were 4 months old.
Really?
Really. I would scrape the little soft inside part out and mush it up and feed it to you.
See, now that sounds disgusting.
But y'all kind of turn your nose up the first time, kind of a little shiver because of the sourness, but you always wanted more. And I guess that's why y'all like pickles so much now.
I really like pickles now. What's your favorite story with a coworker?
Favorite story with a coworker? Well, I don't know. They always accuse me of playing favorites sometimes, and because usually there always be one person that I always preferred to work with, because I always had to work on Friday night, and so there were several different ones over the years, but we always had a good time on Friday nights. Leslie, that worked with us for so long, was ASU student, and then she graduated and moved to Florida. But we had good times, and we always had a Christmas party, had several cookouts in my house on Sundays and stuff. We tried to make it a fun place to work until it got the last couple years. And
Do you still remember people's orders?
yes, there was hoagie guy that always come in. He always got his hoagie without tomatoes, and actually a lady that I just saw her a couple weeks ago, Jennifer. She always got a hoagie deluxe. The mailman always got a half a ham sandwich in the morning when he delivered the mail.
I remember
there's several that I remember their orders.
when I worked there was always this guy who would come in and he'd have his order written on like one of those yellow notebook papers, like the legal pads. And it was always the same thing. He was always like, my wife had to write it down to make sure y'all got it right. And I was like, we had it made when he pulled in the parking lot. And then Ron always gets a pastrami on wheat. Did he always get that when you worked there?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what he got all the time. You know, we had this one lady that if I was not there, she always complained about her food. Every single time. She would either complain to them or come back to me and complain to me the next day. And it's so funny that about a year and a half after I had left there, she saw me in Walmart and started complaining to me about the food that she had gotten a few days ago. And I just said, I'm sorry, I don't work there no more. I haven't worked there in over a year. She goes, well, you have to. I just saw you in there a couple weeks ago. And I said, nuh-uh. Back when Munchy's opened, there was no other sandwich shops in town.
I mean, you did work there for a while.
I did work there for a while. When I started working there, tuition for ASU was $385 a semester for a full-time student.
Man, you can't even take one class for
So
that.
now you can't even take, that's about an hour now.